Hello and welcome to Chez Zasaa, and today we are having a Zasaa Unzipped. And what that means is that we're going to be talking about a topic that is somewhat controversial. We're going to unzip and go in there. And the perfect person for this is my friend Lola. I actually have a few perfect people for this, but this is one good one. So today's topic, Lola, the question is, are we as Christian women, or maybe it's why aren't we as Christian women allowed to choose how we dress?
Wow.
What would you say about that?
I think the first thing I want to do is contextualize it.
Okay.
I know you say Christian women, but in my opinion, it's Christian women within a certain community.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I've been part of a church that wasn't, when that isn't part of our dominant culture, where that didn't matter, and it wasn't something that. So I think it's more cultural.
It's more cultural, yes,
than faith. So that's the context, and it's probably the discussion probably gonna go through those lines, as opposed to based on any faith thing. Now, what was the question again?
Why aren't we as Christian women able to choose what we wear or how we dress?
Okay, so I think it's the culture. It's the culture where we come from, a culture of quote high modesty.
But do we? You see, this is where my challenge is, because I feel like I understand that there is modesty, and modesty is important. I'm 100% with that, and I don't feel like one should just be walking naked.
But why?
On the street.
Who defines modesty?
Well, no, you're right. What I mean is, you're right. We could know this. Let's keep it where
let's contain it,
because this could go anywhere. But what I mean is that I think there's certain for example, you're not going to walk if you work in, like you said, if you work in a law firm, you cannot turn up in a bikini. Yeah, but if you're on a beach, you can quite happily be in a bikini. Yeah.
So the problem comes when you're on a beach wearing your bikini, and you post it on social media, and somebody from an elder from your church, deems it fit to question what you, a grown adult woman, is wearing
I'm so
on the
glad you
beach
said
far
that.
away.
Because I think one of my biggest challenges in this situation is that I understand, and a lot of the time it is thrown at us as women, that help a brother. Don't dress like that because you need to help
That's
your
the most
brother.
flawed argument.
And I feel like, I just feel like, how about the brother gets some willpower or some, it shouldn't be on us. Because this is why you have that thing of when a woman is raped and they say, what was she wearing? Because this is exactly where it comes from, when you have put it in the thing that the responsibility is on the girl.
She's not doing anything.
What's she doing?
She's just going about her business.
And half of the time when she's raped, she's not even necessarily dressed in a manner that's, maybe
and as we now know, rape is not even necessarily about all of that.
Exactly. That's another conversation. But I think so. I think for me, like what you said there about a grown, I'll give you a situation that happened to me. I went to a party and I was showing a little bit of cleavage. I know it was not huge. I mean, I guess if you are a particularly tall person, maybe you could cop an eyeful, but for the average person, who most people are, it was a bit of cleavage. More than I normally show, but not anything that I had. And as a grown woman with a brain, and if I married woman, let me even add, because it seems like that is crucial too. I left my home and I was okay. And my husband was okay with me in this. However, my husband did not come with me to this party. I get to the party, and no sooner have I walked in, I bump into someone from my Christian community who immediately looks, I'm not joking, Lola, I can never forget the look, because he looked at me like I was a piece of dirt. The look that he gave me. And I didn't understand it, because I've come here.
I wasn't there anyway.
The thing is, I'm okay. I couldn't understand what he was possibly looking at me like, but he looked at me like that. And when I realized it was me, he was okay. I looked at him, and then he said to me, this is too much. I can't see your face for your breasts.
Oh my God.
And you know what? For that split second, I was like, oh my God, I need to hide. I mean, I just, it was too, but you know me now. So I then said, I kind of caught myself in a matter of minutes, and I saw he was with a couple of friends. So I went over to the friends, both of who know me, but one knows me better than the other. So I think one knew I was up to no good. The other one was actually genuinely, getting into the conversation. And I said, oh, sorry, gentlemen, can I ask you a question? So they turned, and I said, can you see my face? So of course, they're like, yeah. So I said, also my breasts are not distracting you. And one of the guys was like, what? I said, oh, because your friend's struggling to see my face because of my breasts. So I kind of nipped it then, but I was a 40-something year old woman who just in that minute managed to think of how I could get him, just shut him up right there. Yeah. But even despite that, do you know I didn't get up in that entire party? I didn't dance. I didn't, because I was so self-conscious. And I sat with another friend who apparently someone else had mentioned something to her about her TV. Now she's much more endowed than I am. So she was showing a bit more than me. But again, it really wasn't, in my opinion, anything, it wasn't indecent in any way, shape or form, but it was, a bit of cleavage. Okay. So for the entire party, I didn't get on the dance floor. I remember there was one of my friends there, and she was like, aren't you here? She sent me a message, aren't you here? I said, I'm here, but I can't come near you. So she came to see me. And I was like, I'm a fully grown adult. I left my home comfortable in what I was wearing. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. My husband didn't think there was anything wrong with it. But one comment from someone who was in my community and had a standing in my community. So it wasn't just like you know what I mean? It wasn't just anybody. And I think what hurt me about that was I was like, if he had said that to a 22-year-old or some, the damage he would have caused just by that one statement, because it caused me damage. Yeah. I mean, look at me, I'm still talking about it now. You know what I mean? It's not like I got over it. I mean, I got over it, but it's still,
there was still an impact.
I think for me, my problem is that where do you get off telling me? I mean, at what point? And I think this is where we have a problem in our community. At what right do you have to be telling me about my body? I mean, I don't know where you get, and it's different. You said this thing where they say, oh, help a brother, or maybe, I can understand if you see a young lady that you feel needs guidance, but the way you will guide her is very different.
And you must have a relationship.
And you must have a relationship. I mean, to be fair, I did have a relationship with that guy.
But then if it's not just having a relationship, it's having that level of relationship where they would have maybe let it go on that day.
Yeah.
Or maybe another day you're having coffee together or something, and they bring.
Yes, exactly. Because it's not at that point in
but
time.
But it's not there. There's nothing. You're not going to go home to change.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to change. Mm-hmm. All that is done on that day is restricted your enjoyment of that event.
Yeah. And I guess helped his ego, maybe.
A bit,
because I was thinking about it later. And the funny thing is that I kept saying that I wanted to have the conversation with him, and I still haven't, and it's too many years now for me to have the conversation. But I think because I wanted to have the conversation about, I can hold my own, but you can't because of the role and position that you hold, you can't go about talking to people. First of all, you have no business talking about any woman's body that is not your wife. Please, first, let's even start there. But secondly, if you feel, and I don't understand why you feel it, but if you feel for some reason that you have the position and power because of your position to be able to speak to someone about this, then you need to do it the right way.
Right.
You have to have, and I think, I'm sorry, I've gone into a rant.
No, but it's a good point, because also whether that person has to accept that, whatever your position is, you don't necessarily have the right or the authority to, even my husband doesn't tell me what to do. So what betide you to come and tell me that I'm like that day.
But you see, I feel like our community has given, and I don't know how much of it comes down to, because I know that certainly in the olden days, where the pastor is always right. Anything the pastor says. So our community kind of gives, if you have a role or a title, we give you a thing. So we almost take any sort of rubbish from people like that because they have the title, they have the role. Now, obviously, I was not brought up in that thing, so I don't. But I do know that I kind of half regret not taking it up with him. And maybe he will watch this and recognize who I'm talking about, know who he is, and we can have the conversation. Yeah. But I mean, he did that, and I just thought, nah. As a woman, I wasn't even indecently dressed. And the fun thing is, when I look at that picture, and I'm like, well, what was it?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but I
So
think
it was there. It was even their level of comfort with how a woman should look that was informing them, chastising.
You see, and I think that's the challenge. I think a lot of times when this comes across is that's
definitely something to do with
it. It's their issue. So maybe he had a thing for breasts, or maybe, you know what I mean. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But that thing obviously triggered him, and instead of him to just move himself away quietly,
I'm going to deal with it in his own way.
He decided to take it out on me and put it on me.
On you.
And you know what I mean?
And that makes it easier for him not to feel like, because really you shouldn't, your eyes should not be, and your mouth should not be going into the sphere of space of a grown woman who is living her life, and making her own choices. I'm very much that really would hurt me.
No, I mean, I know you. I mean, it's so funny because I can't lie to you. I was so impressed with how I handled it. And I don't know how I handled it. That was obviously just God. Because I felt like I made the point to him in the way I responded.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't get, But like I said, that party was finished for me.
Yeah.
I couldn't get up. I kept thinking everybody's going to be looking. And I remember one of my friends, the friend that said to me, she came over and she said, it's not that bad. But it was so bad to me now because this comment had been made. Yeah. So I think it's sometimes I feel like we as women allow them.
Exactly.
Because we don't stop. We don't stop. And I remember one of my friends, when I told her this, she said to me, he can never try that on anybody else. She said it's because it's you and because you're friendly and because of the way you relate with them, they think they can tell you anything. That he can't try that with me because she knew who the gentleman was. And we have the same sort of relationship with him. But she's like, there's no way. There's no way. So I think, maybe there's an
element of that because if
it was you.
Like I have no fear of anyone, as in unless the only thing that pulls me back is if I feel like I'm not right or it's not. But if it's concerning me, I will say anything to anyone. I feel it's right, and I think people know that. So you probably wouldn't say that to me. But I was going to say that. I'm going to speak out of two sides of my mouth because. On the one hand, I'm very, very, and not just in what you wear or whatever. I think, you need to allow people the agency of their lives. So a grown person, can do what they want. Of course, in whatever field they're in, consequences or whatever. But even with my children, I have somebody who's going to be 21.
Yeah.
And sometimes she's still asking me, oh, should I do this? I'm like, listen, mate, you're almost 21. You need to start making those decisions yourself because, years ago I started to quote groom her to know that it's your life, so you've got to take. So I'm very much against that. Coming to tell somebody how to dress, how to behave, how to talk, how to speak. Everyone has that right to do what they want. So clothes, one of the most it was just an impactful day for me. It was the 100th year anniversary of women getting the vote. Was it?
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was the first set of women that got the vote because it was. Yeah. Anyway, so we went for this procession in central London with, and I've never seen so many different women. I went to a girls' school, so I know the different types of women, but it was just amazing, and they were just themselves, people were dressed in whatever they wanted, people with purple hair, people, some people, it was just, I just found it so beautiful to see so many different ages, older, and it was a simple thing because we all came together to celebrate, but it was just seeing so many, hundreds of different women as themselves, showing up to just celebrate womanhood, and for me, that was a light bulb moment, because it just entrenched in me that, first of all, there are different sorts of women, and I think because of my upbringing anyway, there's a certain part of it that you might see somebody wearing something, you're like, but it made me kind of think, no, she's every much, as much a woman as you are. That's her expression of her womanhood.
Absolutely.
You're not any better, she's not any better, so that really opened my eyes to it. It was just a simple thing, but it was a light bulb moment for me. So I think, people should be allowed to wear, should be left alone. But on the other side of my mouth, as a conservative, big C, small c conservative, I think, there's a place and a time for everything. So, if you're going for an interview in, I don't know, a big law firm or government department or whatever, you must, I would think
you have to conform.
You would conform to that environment.
Yes.
In the same way, if you're going, I don't know how to dress in Google, but I'm presuming they're quite relaxed. But if you're going there, you don't want to go there in your three-piece. I don't know, but I kind of
so there's an element of
there's an element of adjusting.
Yes,
and being aware.
Isn't that also in more so in a professional environment? I mean, I think also to a certain extent, you're not going to turn up. I mean, you're not going to turn up in church in a bikini.
In a bikini.
You know what I mean? There's certain places that that. But I feel like sometimes you have to be. I remember saying once that I felt like I was being made to be a hypocrite because the way I would dress normally that I was okay with, I couldn't dress like that. This is not about a bikini. This is just about
some things that For example, we were on holiday. You probably wouldn't. If we have a thing in our from wherever we go on holiday, I would have to find a church. So
which is fine.
If you're on a Sunday in a city, we find a church.
Yeah.
And there was where were we? I can't remember what it was. I think it was anyway. I went into a church in Daisy Dukes, and this is called Daisy Dukes. Anyway, the short. Which was fine, and nobody like that. But
you couldn't do that.
I dare not. Not even in church. I dare not wear that in the UK anyway. Because
I do think that yes, you're right. That you have to compromise. There's certain times when you have to adjust, but I do feel like in the end, especially for it's one thing for a mother to be telling her 13-year-old, don't dress like this. It's another thing for a complete person that has no
relationship.
Over to be telling you. And I find that there was once that a particular lady I know one always says that my problem is yellow flesh, and I always say that yellow flesh is more sensitive than the most flesh.
Bizarre things that maybe because I don't understand why people are so.
I don't understand.
know what is fascinated by. I'm like, what is wrong with this?
I don't understand either. And in fact, I'll never forget the day. There was one day that I was with a friend. There was some friends, but she's actually like a friend of a friend. But at the time, she was a friend now, but at the time she was a friend of a friend. And we went to a spa. And I remember when I we went into the sauna, and when I put on my swimsuit, I went to sauna, she just said, I get it now.
Really?
Yeah. And I said, what? She said, I now understand. That was the first time she'd obviously seen yellow flesh in all its glory.
Wow.
And she obviously understood why within our culture there's such a big thing. I don't know what it was because I didn't even understand the statement. So it took me a while to get, but clearly there is something that I feel it's like anything that you're not used to. Because in a society where everybody is black, if there's somebody that is lighter, they stand out. They're different.
That's true.
The same way here when you have people coming and saying, "Can I touch your hair?" or whatever. So I think it's kind of that.
Yeah.
But my problem with it is that it gets we get blamed for everything. I think, and it gets abused. It's a bit more than just curiosity or whatever. Which I'm quite happy for them to be curious with me here. Yeah. But I feel like in our culture, it's not about curiosity.
Why then? Because I think there's, I don't know, maybe there's an element, I don't want to say jealousy, but there's an element of.
Well, that's another unzipped because really, there's that whole thing of when you think of colonialization, how you were told that everything white or lighter is better. Yes. So, I kind of get that, but I just feel like in this day and age, we need to, but then, remember what we said in our last conversation, there's some total of, so if people are coming from,
that's true.
Their father left their mother for a lighter skin.
That's true.
You don't know where they're coming from. You know what I mean? So I guess, but that's. I'm actually going to do a Zasaa Unzipped on light skin privilege, but unfortunately, you can't be in that.
I can't speak to that.
You can't be that because that is it's a thing. It's a real thing. But
Well, it's interesting. I'm learning more about this. They call it colorism.
Colorism. Yes.
And I'm a Real Housewives fan. So yes. One of my
yes.
And that came up in a recent
Okay.
franchise where they were talking about it, and I was just so fascinated with the discussion because it's not in my purview at all. And I just why? But they laid out, the incidents, the facts, and it made sense that the light-skinned ladies in that group were treated better,
Differently.
Absolutely. A lot of things they did, which the dark skinned ladies did, they were given a pass on it, and I thought.
But you see, it's so funny because you can only see things through your own lens.
Yeah.
So whilst I now understand it, but I didn't see it as a past. That was my reality.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily looking at it like, oh.
But then you're not the one doing it as well. So it's not yours to take responsibility for. Does that make sense?
Maybe.
Because you're just living your life, and then there's a whole bunch, especially in the country that we come from and you have come from. And that's why we have a lot of women that actually
bleach. Yeah, and you say, and I can't speak to that either because that thing really saddens me because I'm like, why would you?
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that I'm the color they want to be, so I can't even speak to it, and it
Yeah.
really hurts me because I'm like, if I say to you, why are you doing it? Then like, but
you're okay.
Yeah,
So
you're okay.
why,
So it's that's. But I'm definitely going to try and touch on that colorism, light skinned privilege thing in Unzipped because I do think
from both sides as well. I just see how somebody like you feels being accused of getting privileges that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
And what people. That's the whole.
Let's
not get into that. Back to the clothes and the original question about why don't we feel we can
choose?
wear it?
I mean, I honestly feel like, as Christians, there is a level of modesty that we need to maintain. But that thing can be interpreted different ways. Do you understand what I mean?
But I don't think it's as Christians. I think as a human being,
yes. Okay, fine.
You would kind of, we have, I was telling somebody today that, because I started a new job, and first day, I went in to have lunch with them, and everybody was wearing jeans, dungarees, and this is one of the, it's big comment. I was like, so when I went in the first day, I kind of kept it a bit, I wasn't too. So I asked, please, what's the dress code for this place? And they said the dress code is dress for the day.
What does that mean?
It means
how you
basically wear jeans unless you're having a meeting, or you're meeting an external client or whatever. And I think that should be your dress for. I mean, it's simple. Dress for the day, dress for the occasion.
Yeah.
And apply some wisdom when you do that. I think as an individual, that's what I would say to myself. That's what I say to other people. But on the other hand, Simon should not come and tell me that this trouser you're wearing is too tight.
Yeah,
because it's none of your business.
Yes, true. I mean, I think it's clear that you have to how you would dress to go to a nightclub is different from how you dress to go to an office, clearly. So there's an element of there's just different ways you would dress. So I think, you do have to conform to certain things. But like you said, I don't feel anybody has the right. I mean, even my husband, but let's even give the husband respect. As a fully grown woman, I don't know. It's funny, I was at another event and a lady came up to me. In fact, again, I was wearing a V-neck thing and she came up to me. And again, I don't have that relationship with her. And she said to me, no, we need to keep this for my brother. So I said, who is your brother? Because she doesn't even know my husband. You know what I mean? I was like, don't come to me with this, your Christian nonsense that is trying to say, And then when she walked off, I mean, I said, who is your brother? Because she knew she wasn't. So she was like, I know that, that's, that should just be for my brother. So I said, your brother likes it like this for me to wear it. I'm like, but then she went. But when she went off, I looked at what she was wearing and she was much more voluptuous than I was. So as far as I was concerned, hers was much worse than mine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it's that yellow flesh.
Yeah.
It stands out. Yeah. It stands out. And so I think she really felt like I was worse dressed. I actually feel like she said it. She wasn't being horrible. She was actually thinking, no, this is too much, and because I'm like I said, she had no right, but I feel like she I don't think it was evil. I don't think she was trying to be, but I just thought, no.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, we would love to hear your comments. This was Zasaa Unzipped, and yes, as you see, we unzipped and we went there. Controversial topic. What do you think? Let us know. And we'll see you next time. Until then, rock your own gorgeous.
Into your safe space. So I do put boundaries up, very strong boundaries. But for those who there are no boundaries, so yes, like you said, there's no halfway house. I either have boundaries with you, or I don't have boundaries with you. And if I have boundaries with you, I'm not vulnerable. It's all a facade. You will think though, because you know Kemi and she talks a lot and stuff, and you think, oh yes, and you think no. It's all a facade. There's no. It's a. I'm not an open book there.
But then, how do you get from the point of no boundaries to bound or